This live stream brought to you by the Excelsior Citizen and these generous sponsors. Our Excelsior Springs Hospital, where better care is right in your backyard. The Simmons Sales Team, your hometown realtors.
Whether we're talking about our dedication to preventing and restoring power outages, our pursuit of safety, or providing the best member experience possible, we are relentless in serving our communities.
Find out how you can advertise with Excelsior Springs' #1 community resource. Visit excelsiorcitizen.com today.
All right, it is time to kick it off. This time I call the meeting to order. This time I entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Kaylin first, Darren second. All those in favor? That
I
passes.
was not here for the last open session.
But you can still adopt the agenda.
Yes.
Yeah. I was like, all right, I'm staying here, sitting right there. Okay, all those in favor? And that passes 7-0. If you will please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It is now. Okay.
All right, we're back up. This time I'd entertain a motion to adopt the, the consent agenda. So, first by Troy.
Second.
Second by Jill. All those in favor? 6. Abstain? 1. Got that, Mark? Got it. Okay. I'm trying to go slow for you. Next up is item C, recognition for classified employee of the month. Dr. Mullen.
Yes, if it pleases the board, we would like to present our classified employee of the month for this last month. So we recognize Mrs. Amy Jeffers for her dedication to the staff and students at Lewis Elementary School. So Amy has served as the recovery room instructor for the last 2 years. And it was noted this on her recommendation form by the principals. Amy is a tremendous support to Lewis students and staff. She builds relationships with students, supports VBIS, and helps teach and reinforce positive behaviors. She consistently uses her role in the focus room to help us live out our motto of cultivating kindness and academic success. So we want to congratulate Mrs. Jeffers and thank her for all the hard work she does over at Lewis. So thank you.
All right, moving right along, item D, MSBA delegate report. Mr. McCown.
Got a video of it.
School Boards Association's board report. We begin with a look at filing for the next school board election, which is only a couple months away.
Well, that was good.
Yes. There are many things districts can do between now and the start of filing to prepare. MSBA's Director of Board Development, Catherine Whitaker, says that this is a great time to start communicating with the community about the upcoming election process.
So candidate filing doesn't open until December. So you have technically 2 months to let your community know that you do have an opening on the school board potentially. You have time to let them know what it looks like to be a school board member, what does it mean to file, how do you file, and just to give them information about your school district in general. We've created a presentation that superintendents, board presidents can use to inform the community about their school district as a whole, and then also about what it means to be a school board member.
Whitaker also says that MSBA has numerous resources to help potential school board candidates from filing to election.
So on our website, we have a ton of information, some written by lawyers so that they know how to appropriately file and run a campaign, but some written by us, just again, trying to outline what does it look like to be a school board member, what does it feel like to be a school board member, what are your responsibilities. So we've created a module for candidates that school districts can sign up for and then give the login information to those candidates. So they can go in and have a better understanding of, now that you're a candidate and you filed, you know, what does it look like to be a school board member? It's interactive, gives a lot of information about the state and what it means to be a school board member.
Visit the MSBA website for all of the resources and training modules available to school boards and potential candidates. The start of the next legislative session is also just around the corner. MSBA's Director of Governmental Relations, Brant Shields, says that the upcoming Fall Delegate Assembly is the chance to have your voice heard on issues surrounding public education as we head toward the next legislative session.
Coming up later this fall is our Fall Delegate Assembly, held on the Friday of annual conference. This is an important opportunity to have your district's voice heard in setting education policy for the state of Missouri. Every member of MSBA is guaranteed at least one delegate in our assembly. Now is a great time to make sure that your delegate's contact information is up to date with MSBA, so they receive the latest news and information for the delegate assembly. As we said earlier, legislative session is just around the corner, beginning Wednesday, January 3rd. Make sure you are signed up for MSBA's Legislative Voice newsletter, published weekly during session, for the latest information and advocacy actions to help you advocate for your students in Jefferson City. As elected officials, your voice is crucial for MSBA to succeed in our legislative goals for the benefit of our students.
And as Brant said, the Fall Delegate Assembly will be held during the Friday of annual conference. If you haven't registered for the conference yet, it's not too late. The 2023 MSBA Annual Conference, in cooperation with the Missouri Association of School Administrators and the Missouri Association of School Business Officials, will be held November 2nd through the 4th in Kansas City. The event will once again feature numerous breakout sessions and workshops, many presented by school leaders from districts throughout the state, along with a great lineup of general session speakers. The conference will also feature the Education Expo, the Student Showcase, and much more. Visit the MSBA website for more information. That's it for this month. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and we'll see you in November for the next MSBA Board Report.
Anything further, Mr. McCown?
Nope, just a reminder about the conference. I think we're all gonna kind of go, and we're all gonna meet up, so that's before our next board meeting, so it's the first of next month.
All right. Next up is our visitors forum, and we have two visitors this evening. Mr. Smith, you were the first to turn in, so you can go first. A few of the ground rules that we have is you have 3 minutes. There'll be a clock up at on the board up there, and you can go to the podium if you want to. The board doesn't answer questions during this time or respond to you, okay?
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I was curious if it was a back and forth.
And we will pass it. I mean, if the administrator that needs to look into it isn't here, we'll make sure that they find out about your concerns and we go from there.
Okay.
Okay?
You good to go?
It's not popping up. Okay. I'm ready.
Go ahead.
So we had the issue with the gun brought to school. I'm looking for clarification, information, action plan. It just seems like it disappeared. And that is heartbreaking to me as a parent that this is laissez-faire now. I mean, it just feels like it's like, oh, there's another one. Granted, it could have been a lot worse, obviously, but when is another one going to happen? And from my understanding, the information I've been told, it was a 1-year suspension or expulsion. I don't see how that can be rationalized. Decisions were made and repercussions. I shouldn't have to now hope that after all this is said and done, oh, their mentality's better, everything's fine, my daughter goes to school, everything's great because he changed his mind. I shouldn't have to send my daughter to school worrying about that. I would like information, I don't know how we could get that out, like email, as far as like, and I understand with it being a minor, there are a lot of constraints. It's like, but is the family being looked at? Psychological evaluation, is the school, because it's like, my daughter goes to Elkhorn, and we hear stories of how that's the Wild West once she goes to the middle school. And hearing everything that's going on with that, is that being looked at? It's just, want to bring it to the attention, and somehow, some way, we get information to the parents. And again, I understand that it isn't a witch hunt on the kid, but as parents, we need to know that this isn't just disappearing. Because I saw it at Lawson when I was in school. Same situation, someone brought a gun to school. Push it aside. Just keep it quiet. I'm not saying that's a situation here, but that was a situation back then. So I'll yield the rest of my time. I just want information. Thank you.
Thanks for your input. I will let you know that we have taken a look at this. Nothing's been brushed aside. It's all been taken extraordinarily seriously. There are certain things that we can do as a public school district, certain things we cannot do, certain things we have authority over, certain things we don't when it comes to families and those issues. What we do oversee is our students that attend our schools, and I can assure you that we address those with every ounce of ability that we have.
Okay.
I can't get into any specifics over student discipline. They have their own rights to privacy as well, but I can assure you that it's taken very seriously and is being addressed.
Okay, thank you.
All right, our second visitor, is it Diane Elliott? Same thing applies, 3 minutes. Right.
Yes.
You may go.
I would like to know why a parent was denied a report and charges to be pressed in an incident that occurred on September 7th at the high school. I would like to know why the discipline was unequal and that the offending child was less days than the victim child. I would like to know how many altercations per week you have at the high school. I would like to know how many of those were sent to juvenile that required medical care. I would like to know what you're doing about the vaping of THC in the restrooms. It is not, you can't smell it. That's why they're vaping it. I would like to know why students are allowed to block the restroom doors during a fight so that no one can leave and so that the other ones on the other side of the bathroom that stay out of the swing area can videotape. I would like to know if you have considered putting cameras outside the bathrooms with an occupancy limit. I would like to know why your website gives a 16-to-1 teacher ratio, which is not true. And why do we not have metal detectors? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I also would expect a response to those questions.
We'll send that to the correct, or to the proper administrators, and then we've got your certain number right there.
We'll need a copy of your questions, Ms. Elliott. We'll need a copy of your questions so that they.
Is your address
Okay.
Excelsior 6424?
Yep.
Okay. If you'll give Ms. Shelton a copy of your questions before you go. All right, moving on to F, cabinet reports. First up, academic services, Dr. Miller.
Thank you.
It's not moving. It doesn't work on this desktop. It's not working for me.
Where's yours right here? I was trying. I was trying to help.
It's not working for me. Okay.
All right. Let's talk about academics. So wanted to go over a little bit. This is really just a reminder. We've been in the NEE system. It's the Network for Educator Effectiveness. We started it it's back when I was a teacher. So we've been using this system. Just wanted to give the board a reminder of how we evaluate our teachers, and also to remind you that we're really not evaluating our teachers, we're evaluating our teaching. That's something that I'm trying to get across to all of our teachers. Teaching as a profession is really, really personal. You bring your heart and your soul to your classroom, and sometimes if you don't get a very good evaluation on your teaching, it can crush you a little bit. So on any given day, you're doing a great job and you're teaching to the best of your ability, and things happen in your classroom that can derail you. So our administrators are fully aware that when you walk in, you're taking a snapshot and you're having a follow-up conversation with those teachers. Teaching are ranked in a couple different categories on a 1 to 7 scale. How it works in our district is I choose a district level indicator, and so every building measures performance in the classroom teaching on that one indicator, and then they choose one that's building specific. If a teacher is struggling in a specific area or if they need some additional support, it's really common for new teachers to actually, not necessarily they're struggling, but they're just new, to have a couple of additional indicators so that they can get feedback on that as well. Just wanted to give you guys kind of a reminder on how that works. So our principals will walk into a classroom, watch 10 minutes of teaching, and then the teacher gets immediate feedback on how they can improve. There's a scoring system. What this does is it gives us a really good indicator for how to guide our professional development in the district, so everything's all aligned. I meet with administrators once or twice a month, and that's one of the things that I always ask them is, what are you seeing in your classrooms? What do we need to improve on? And literally, we've made split-second decisions to alter our professional development schedule based on some things that they're seeing with the teaching. That's a real quick fix. It may need a half-day PD just to educate some of our teachers in a new skill or a new teaching technique. And so we get to see that immediately in classrooms after that. Just wanted to give you guys an update. Kind of, we're just now starting to get in our observations. Again, those all happen by March, I believe, and then that comes to you in the form of all of the approvals and the contracts that we sign. So it's all tied together. Just wanted to give you guys some feedback on that. I'm gonna try to make it go again. It's just not happening. Okay, so I've been telling you that we recently adopted the STAR assessment. Every elementary building and our middle school building gave every one of our students the STAR assessment on reading. This month we'll be giving it on math, but wanted to give you guys basically our baseline data for this month. So we're gonna continue to assess reading every other month, but this is really the first time that we've done it. You guys have heard me talk about reading success plans and getting kids the things that they need. This is really a lot of the data that's guiding what we're doing as a district. So I wanted to kind of share with you, if you look over there, I've got Cornerstone, Elkhorn, Lewis, and the middle school listed. Directly to the column next to it, it gives our district ranking percentile. What that means is this is a comparison to other elementary schools, other school districts, other middle schools in the nation. So you have to understand that Missouri's been on a downhill. They've been incrementally going down in reading scores, which is why they made so many additions to letters training, science of reading. So it's on the uptick, but when you look at this, this is literally ranking us against every district in the school. What this means for Cornerstone, for example, is that we're in the 38th percentile, meaning that we are better than 38% of the schools. Did I say that right? Yes. So just to give you an idea of how that's ranked, Elkhorn's the 41st percentile, Lewis is 39th, and middle school is 27th. I wish STAR had a way for us to actually compare to Missouri, because it's really about their curriculum. It's about the state of Missouri's curriculum. That's more of an apples to apples comparison than it is nationally. But as it stands now, this is just a benchmark for us that I wanted to share with you guys. The next column over is something that we were all really interested to see. That 25th percentile is what the state is determining as our cutoff for reading success plans. So if you look, the percentage of students below the 25th percentile at Cornerstone Elementary, so this is specific to Cornerstone, 35% of their students are in the bottom 25th percentile, if that makes sense. So roughly 35% of that building are likely to be on a reading success plan. That's just one piece of evidence, and they look at other things also. We've kind of guided practice in our professional development where the best indicator of how a student performs is really the teacher. They're the ones sitting next to the student in the classroom. So there's, we call it a body of evidence. There's all kinds of things that factor into that decision. This data piece is a big one. Elkhorn has 34% of their students in the bottom 25th percentile. Lewis, 36% of their students are in the bottom 25th percentile. And if you look at the middle school, 45% of the middle school are in the bottom 25th percentile. I'm going to be focusing a lot on middle school and getting them, I feel like our elementaries are already on a path down the literacy plan that I have. And so I've been working with Dr. Kaufman to get ready to get the middle school some support with a new reading program next year and get them focused. From a curricular standpoint, one of the things that I shared with the administrators is when you look at Cornerstone, Elkhorn, and Lewis, there's not that much difference between the percentage of kids that you have in the bottom 25th percentile. And what that means basically, I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can take it, but how I think it's important to me, that's really a same curriculum type situation that's really my obligation to fix. So that's one of the things that we're working on with all of the program improvements that we're doing and the science of reading, sending all of the teachers. So hopefully we'll see a shift in that. Dr. Tomlinson reminds me all of the time the shift is not going to happen next week, and I try to argue with him. But over the next several years, I'll try to be patient and see that incremental growth move forward. So if you look at the difference, that's the amount of kids that are in the 25th percentile. The actual students that made reading success plans after looking a little bit deeper, taking a deeper look into what they were doing, 28% of Cornerstone is on a reading success plan. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. 28% of Elkhorn is on a reading success plan. 31% of Lewis is on a reading success plan. And that's pretty typical for our district, I would say. The middle school, I don't have anyone on there because right now the state is requiring that kindergarten through 3rd grade have a reading success plan. What we did is we're putting every kindergartner through 5th grade on reading success plans, just because the state doesn't want us to take the opportunity to make those kids better readers at 4th and 5th grade. We're still a school district. People send us their kids, and so we're going to make them better. As kids transition from 5th grade to 6th grade next year, all the reading success plans will follow them if they should still need one. You can scroll down one column.
Can I ask something real quick? Me?
Yes, yes, please.
That first column, could you clarify that for me? Is that nationwide, statewide? Like, what is that? Is that like, I'm just confused.
So we're up one column. So that's actually ranking us through every district in the nation.
In the nation.
nation.
In the nation. I
So
wish.
it's not like 50 states, I mean, it's like every district in the nation.
Yes. So I
I'm
wish
just
that
making
there
sure
was
I
a.
understand.
I wish there was a way to break it down to just look at our ranking with Missouri. There really isn't, because like I said, that would be more apples and apples. Missouri writes our curriculum. They really do, and it's our obligation to follow their standards. So the majority of what I do is ensure that what happens in the classroom is following Missouri learning standards. So I think that that says a lot to our legislators. I think it says a lot to DESE. As a state, everyone has been, like I said, going on that downhill decline. And largely, it's the perfect time to make a transition after we just got out of COVID. I feel like we've finally hit the, I still have like contractors and things, and other people try to tell me that, oh, that's because of COVID, but that excuse is sort of getting a little older now. So I feel like now we're at a position where we can start building back up. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, I saw the numbers, I was thinking like 50 states, and I'm like, well, that's pretty, but that's
No,
much better
it's a
than-
percentile ranking
like
against
all
every
50
district
states.
that takes the STAR
I
assessment.
just want to make sure I understood that.
Yep.
Thank you, thank you.
You bet. So our elementary comparison by grade, I've got first, second, again, this is percentile. So our first grade Cornerstone students and our first grade Lewis students are actually doing really well. They're in the 52nd percentile and the 64th percentile. I say that they're doing well. That's not good enough for me or for us, but considering the other things, you'll see pockets. That's typical of different cohorts. I mean, you just have, the kids are different. If you parent different kids, you know that they're all different, and it just depends. We've got good groups of kids, and we've got great groups of kids. So it just really, you can kind of see how this plays out. In addition to that, like, I won't share this with you guys, but I know which teachers we have in which grades, and I can literally think of our best teachers and look at some of these grades and know that they are a big reason why some of those percentiles are higher. Again, looking at these, they're not that different, and when they are, I can tell you the 4th grade Elkhorn scores are largely because of a 3rd grade Elkhorn teacher. She's outstanding, and I think that she's a big reason for why that number is so big. My challenge, and I think our challenge, is looking at those first grade kids, keeping them going as they move through our school system, making sure that they're getting everything that they need and not focusing on the 28% or only the kids in the bottom 25th percentile, but making sure that all of those kids are getting everything that they need. So next one, Colin. What we do now that we have not done a fair job before is we build an individual intervention plan for kids. So kids on a reading success plan, we have a whole bunch of different things that we can give them. They obviously all get whole group instruction, and what's happening now is after the STAR assessment, teachers are sitting in a room and collaborating and deciding, hey, you know, all of the first graders are scoring very low in this area. So instead of just saying, oh well, and moving on, they're actually changing their classroom instruction and working with their scope and sequence and kind of slowing some things down so they can go in and target some of those skills that the kids were missing. Small group work happens every day in our classrooms. That's a small group literally of 4 or 5 kids, and a teacher gets to group them according to ability and then work on the skill that the kid needs at that time. We've got pull-out groups. Our title teachers are amazing. They are doing an outstanding job. I met with them with Dr. Everett, and I know that they were looking at me like, lady, I have never worked with you, and this is really how a reading program is supposed to go, and they've been outstanding at supporting the literacy plan overall. We've got after-school tutoring. This is a pillar to my literacy plan, is making sure that kids get the focused intervention that they need. Also, these things are changing. If a kid is in a tutoring group, they're assessed often and actually will get a different intervention if they're succeeding or if they're struggling. We don't do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. In addition, our building literacy teams are just now starting to work on parent resources that will be sent home. I know I'm trying to share with parents, this is what your student is learning about, so be talking about these things, and I'll share that with you in an additional slide. It is a very individualized approach to how we're taking literacy now. Third grade reading is different for every third grader. That just has to be how it is in order to make sure every third grader gets the reading instruction that they need. So next, this is the one thing that I talk way more about than I ever think I need to talk about. Field trips. So I challenged the administrators and challenged the teachers last year. I think how it was before was in March, I would get a request to take kids to, I don't know, Watkins Mill, say for example, and it really wouldn't pertain to the curriculum. They just thought the kids needed to see Watkins Mill or they needed to go to Arrowhead Stadium. So now that we have our Wit and Wisdom units, I challenged them to try to find field trips that really went with the thematic units that worked with our curriculum. So they rose to the occasion and did an excellent job. Kindergarten, so another thing that I wanted was a plan for every K-5 kid so that parents could know that this was coming up because it was important to their learning. So I'm all about giving kids every experience possible, but those experiences only get better if they're fully immersed in what they're talking about before they ever get to the place. So in kindergarten, they're going to the Fun Farm or the Chateau Milk place, factory, dairy place, cow production. Farm. The Chateau Milk Farm. I know, I'm new to ranching. So
Milk comes from cows.
I'm brand new. I'm brand new. So first grade is going to the Kansas City Zoo. Every second grader is going to either an orchard or there's a nature park of some kind. I can't remember what it's called, but they're either doing one of those two things. Third grade's going to the planetarium. Fourth grade's going to the Coterie Theater. And fifth grade is going to go to the World War I Museum. So if you scroll down, Colin, it'll make a little bit more sense. With our Wit and Wisdom units, they do a deep dive based on themes. So these are basically the 4 quarters that every kindergartner will get. Right now they're talking about their 5 senses. The next unit is Once Upon a Farm, so you can see how the Fun Farm or Chateau Milk Farm production, dairy farm works right into that. Then they have a unit on America Then and Now, and then they have a deep dive on the continents. I'm not a very good rancher, I know. Just wait till next year. I'll have all the lingo. So first grade is talking about a world of books, specifically libraries. I sent something out on our district webpage that if you have a first grader, now is the time to take your kid to the library because that's all they're talking about right now. The next unit, they have animal features, and so that's why they're going to the zoo. It fits beautifully with that. Second grade is talking about the different seasons, a season of change, and that's why they're centering their field trip around that. Next one, Colin. Third grade is talking about the sea, and then they talk about outer space, which is obviously why the planetarium was chosen. They go on to speak about immigration, and then they do the coolest unit on art, where they're having these very critical conversations about very famous works of art. They really do a lot with these units. I'm super impressed with it. Fourth grade is doing my favorite unit, I think, in the whole series. It's called A Great Heart, and they look at the heart figuratively and literally, so they're actually learning about how the heart works and then how the heart works with emotions. And that's when depending on what the Coterie Theater presents, they'll choose which one goes along with that, but they're working that into their curriculum. Extreme environments, that works with them right now. The redcoats are coming, and then myth making. Fifth grade, cultures and conflict, they do wordplay, and then they talk about the Civil War, which they're going to the World War I Museum. Really, the Civil War unit is more about conflict and about what it takes to, how people get into a war, so I think that unit worked really well with them as well. The last unit that they will do was sports. One final thing as a reminder, because this is our first year doing Wit and Wisdom, they're only covering the first 3 units. This work is hard. The kids are working harder than they ever have. The teachers are working harder than they ever have. So in order to make sure that they're given plenty of time to get through the units as they're supposed to be done, actually the company recommends that you only cover the first 3 units. So cannot say enough about how proud I am of the teachers and how proud I am of the administrators. They've all done an outstanding job. Any questions on? Yeah.
Middle school, high school field trips?
So middle school and high school field trips, I haven't listed them. 6th grade always goes to the zoo. It's part of their science curriculum. I don't know. Another thing that I changed is all field trips have to be submitted to me at the first part because we have a curriculum now. There's no reason to not know what your curriculum is and then say this kind of fits in. We know what our curriculum is now. 100% open to middle school and high school field trips as I get them. I've been approving them. I don't have a list of all of the middle school and high school activities. The high school is largely activity-based. We've got student council leadership type stuff, like I always approve their stuff. Career Center, they get to do whatever they need to do with their Skills USA things. So those are kind of outlier type things. This is actually worked into the curriculum. Like I said, I know science has some activities. Brett, you could help me out with this. Other than science, I can't think of anything that 7th and 8th grade is doing.
7th grade they're kind of in flux right now. 8th grade's looking, social studies wise, they're looking at going, what works with the American history unit is going down to Independence. They're going to do 4 different Bingham Wagner State Frontier Trails Museum, 1859 Jail, and the Vale Mansion. So they're going to go to those 4. And then with science, I think in 8th grade they're looking at going to the water treatment facility, doing some science experiments with them. They've got scientists coming in and taking them through labs in class and then going down to the facilities and looking at that.
I've already looked at the wit and wisdom units that are coming his way, and I think next year you'll see a lot of what we're doing here based on the reading units that we're doing, and a lot of that co-curricular stuff that we've been talking about.
All of our juniors did the decision center at the Tree Library, which is spectacular. Lower Stockade, Joe.
What I want is not, so what I had seen was that every year kids would do something different. And if it's good for a 7th grader one year, it should be good for a 7th grader every year, if that's our curriculum and that's what we want them to do. So K-5 is worked out. I think that with all of the changes that we'll see with the middle school with this new reading program, and his teachers have done, they're really good at making connections with the current curriculum that they have. In fact, I think that sometimes I have to tell him no because I'm giving up a day of learning to go to field trips. And so on our shortened calendar that we have that's more attractive to a lot of our staff members, we have a shorter calendar than other districts do. So I'll be the first one to tell you it's hard for me to give up a whole day of learning to go to an activity, so it has to fully align with our curriculum to make sure that our kids are still getting all of the learning that they can. And it's easy to fit in. Like this is a great example of how we can do that in the future.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Next up, Human Services, Dr. Everett.
Thank you. Just to kind of start this month, I wanted to share a little bit about how our special education program is evaluated from the Department of Education. And so, I don't think this is going to work for me either. There we go, thank you. So basically, every district's on a 3-year monitoring cycle. And so for us, we are cohort 3, which means that we are in kind of that second stage, which is the corrective action plan. So basically, in year 1, the state basically hand selects a bunch of different IEP students and their files that we have to submit and things that they review. And so that was last year for our district. And so they review all of those things, and then by October 1st of this year, we get what's called our corrective action plan. So we got our corrective action plan. It's actually very, very good. I can't take any credit for it because I was not in this role last year, but we only had 3 very minor things that showed up on our corrective action plan. And so typically districts may have a lot more than that. And so the idea is By October 1st, you get your plan or your items that need addressed. You have until the 31st of October to submit your plan to the state, and then they approve it, and then you work through the plan throughout this whole school year. So those 3 things that were listed there are our 3 things that we needed to address on our plan. 2 of the 3 were things that have to do with our transition services for our students with IEPs that are 16 years or older. So it's about their post-secondary goals, being a little bit more specific with what skill sets our students have and how those line up to their next step and their goals. And the next piece of that is, how are we as a district helping them to meet those post-secondary goals and to place them in workplace and opportunities like that. So we're working with Voc Rehab to come in and really work with our students. This last year, this is our 2nd year to do summer workplace, which has been a huge thing for our 16 and 17-year-old students, getting real world experience, working like with our custodial staff. But this year they also worked with we partnered with our community center. And so those real world opportunities have really been very helpful for our students. So, and then our 3rd piece for corrective action was just some of our students who have to take alternate assessments. So those are like MAP A students, a lot of those students that do not take our EOC or our MAP test, really still giving them good short-term goals that are measurable so that we make sure that they're making good progress since they're not taking those state tests. So those, like I said, we got our 3 plan items on October 1st. We've already been approved for our plan. It basically is just some good professional development for our staff. And then what happens next is the state then handpicks new IEPs of different students to look and measure and make sure that those things that they have said that we have said we're going to do, that we're actually implementing with our students. So so then next year is basically just maintain and retrain. So next year is our year where we really take the things that we know that from our plan that we want to get better on, and we just hammer professional development and really try to get make sure everything is tightened up. So if you'll scroll to the next page, part of our evaluation too is just looking at how many students do we serve in our special education population, and then also looking at their environments. You know, we always say that we strive for the least restrictive environment, and so that means, you know, you want to provide each student with as much normalcy and regular education access as you can. And so every student that has an IEP meeting throughout the year, we were trying to make sure that we're meeting their goals, but meeting their goals in a way that is putting them with their peers as much as possible. So I just thought this was interesting for me. Like, I hadn't really dug into, you know, where all of our students are at and their percentages of, you know, how much they're in the regular education setting versus their special education setting. And so I just thought I'd provide those numbers for you so that if you're interested to see that. You know, we do get to situations where there are students that we just can't service their needs in our traditional school setting. And so that's where that 3% of students placed in separate day schools. So sometimes whether it's behavioral needs or complex medical needs where we have to send to the Missouri, like the state school for the severely disabled, sometimes those situations arise, and so we want to definitely work with those outside providers to make sure we're giving students what they need. So just thought I'd share that with you.
Is that just IEPs?
Yes.
Any idea how many 504s?
So actually we're looking at that right now. We had a meeting last week, and so I can give you the exact numbers, but right now it's a little bit hard to track because we have some of our buildings using SpedTrack to track those, and some are just using PowerSchool. So our goal as a district is by December 31st, everything's going to be in SpedTrack so we can see it all in one space. So yeah, I want to be able to see it all in one spot. So we're working on that. Our counselors are doing a great job getting those updated. So kind of the next piece that falls under my umbrella is could go ahead and scroll down. We're really talking about behavior and how the behavior framework and social emotional learning is just as important as the academic side, because without those other pieces in place, students don't have the tools to really get the best out of their instruction. And so we are really working, our admin team has been so great about really looking at opportunities to improve our anti-bullying education and opportunities at our elementary levels. They're really focusing those assemblies on our positive behavior supports, but the messages of anti-bullying, some of our circle up times in our elementaries are really focused on kindness and friendship and empathy. In our upper elementary levels, they're looking at bullying, but in terms of like conflict resolution, and then also starting to get into that cyberbullying too, because we know lots of 4th and 5th graders who have devices at home, and so they're really starting to have those conversations about what does that look like and what is appropriate conflict resolution as well. I've also been meeting with MOXA. So they are the Missouri Council on Sexual Assault, and so working with them to see how we can provide some awareness and some training to our students about healthy relationships and boundaries, but also training our adults for what do they do when a student of theirs presents something that's challenging for them at home. Like, how do they respond to students appropriately, but also get them the support and the help that they need, so that they're not re-traumatized in different situations. So I'm excited about really looking at some of those partnerships. We're also working with Summit Behavioral to come in and to provide some professional development in November for all of our staff about just how to manage those classroom behaviors on a larger scale, and so to better equip some of our students or our teachers for de-escalation, so that it doesn't get to a situation where they have to send a student out for discipline. So, and then another piece to that is we're really looking at our counseling department doesn't have a fully usable curriculum, and so a lot of several districts around us use Character Strong, and so we are looking at that this year to see if that's something that we might want to bring in, through our whole district next year, to really help our classroom teachers and our counselors to be able to provide that social emotional support for all of our students. And then lastly, PBIS and Panorama, these are the other two big pieces of behavior that we're looking at. So our positive behavior support, like our district leadership team today, met again, and we meet monthly and are really focusing on those big building-wide initiatives where we are teaching expected behaviors, but also reinforcing and helping students to recognize students when they do those positive things. A big piece of that is trying to make sure that our district is aligned in terms of our discipline referral process and how we handle those behaviors, how we respond to those behaviors. And so as a team today, our elementaries were able to work collectively they're shoring up their an aligned discipline referral process, and so are our secondary. So why that's important is we are utilizing a program called SWIS that really helps us break down all of that behavior data, and will be able to help us make decisions on what supports and trainings that our teachers need to support which behaviors. The third piece to that triangulation of data is Panorama. So Panorama we've been using for several years. It's the program that we use for surveying our social emotional questions of our students and our staff members. But the beautiful thing about Panorama is it talks with Power School, and it talks with SWIS, and it will talk to even like we are waiting for our STAR assessments to be loaded into there too. And so that third piece is the social emotional survey that our students take. And so we're able to triangulate that data and to see behaviorally, attendance, discipline, social emotional, what each student needs. And so it can help us create intervention groups for our teachers to really target specific interventions, but also then helps us to make individualized intervention plans. So the piece of Panorama that we have not been using that we're excited about using now is that there's a thing called a playbook where it really gives you prescriptive interventions that you can use with students. And so we're excited about that. Our counselors utilize those groupings to help do our art therapy groups and our different therapy groups that we have with Synergy and Tri-County. And so I'm really excited. This first survey that we're taking right now, the window closes on Friday. So we have a training on October 18th with all of our counselors and our administrators where they're going to really be able to look at that data for the first time that has behavior, discipline, social emotional, and attendance, and really can start making some good decisions about what's needed for each of our buildings. So a lot going on, but really exciting. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Everett. Next up, operations, Dr. Bowman.
In the please of the board, I'd like to give an operations update report for October. So just to follow up on safety security conversation that we had last month. So we are continuing to very strategically and pragmatically implement the Raptor alerts throughout the district. If you guys remember from presenting this last month, the month before, Raptor alerts allows any staff member in the building after training to alert an administrator that they may need support in a certain area of the building, or report an incident that may be going on, or even to call a fire alarm, an earthquake drill, which I would think everyone in the building would already know, or like an intruder alert. So we're working on training all the staff on that system, and then that alert would go out to anyone with a district device such as their iPad. So we're continuing to implement that, and we should be at full implementation by second semester. So we're excited about that additional added layer of security along with all the other things that we're doing in the district. Exciting news, if you haven't seen the news, grant update. So we received $200,000 to improve safety and security throughout the district.
How much?
$200,000.
What?
Yes, and I'm greedy. I applied for $300,000, we got the two, but I'm excited because last year they told us Miller has not, she can have any. But last year for the grant program, they told us we were too safe. So this year they doubled the money and said you guys can go ahead and have $200,000. So the discussion that we've had over the last couple of years is just the glass throughout the district, exterior and entryway. What we've learned through this conversation and looking at the district is the glass at Cornerstone on the exterior and first floor windows are already impact resistant. There's already a laminate film between the glass that protects from being rioted into. So what we're going to do with this grant is we will go through those interior windows in the hallways, and we'll make sure that impact resistant film is added to those, which should increase the safety and security throughout that building. And that issue has already been resolved in the plans for the new Lewis. Those windows won't be there. So we're really excited about that opportunity. And then the additional of the funds will do an audit of the rest of the district, their entryways and vestibules, and make sure if that glass is not already laminate protected, that we get it protected through this grant. And it's 100% reimbursable. So we're going to spend $200,000, and they're going to reimburse us for all $200,000 of that. So we're really excited about that opportunity. Mr. Jeff Kimsey, our Safety and Security Director, is rolling through that process. So we're really excited about that. Again, another layer of security that we're providing for our community that we're really excited about. Food service, just a quick update. So I had to do something in my presentation to add some fun to it like Dr. Miller does. So the ACE show is something that we're doing to improve not only participation in our lunch and breakfast program, but also to increase students' knowledge of the nutrition that's happening within our program. So the ACE show is a one-of-a-kind video and information series, student nutrition to elementary school. It focuses mostly on the elementary. Some of the information will get out to the middle school as well, but this is just an example of one of the pamphlets that gets handed out throughout the district. They show a video series on the TV, and really it's just a way to, in a fun way, educate students on proper nutritional decisions that they may make, whether they're buying a school lunch or whether they're bringing their own. So we're really excited about that. Lots of other things we're doing throughout the district to increase participation, and so I'm going to collect some of those and we can dig into it a little bit more next month, but lots of exciting things happening in food service. The big thing I wanted to dig into this month is attendance. So all of the things that Dr. Miller discussed, student success plans, tutoring, all of the social emotional learning, Character Strong that we want to investigate, the PBIS, none of those things matter if our students don't show up. And so what we want to talk about, why does attendance matter? Because if they're not here, everything that we're doing in the classroom does not matter. It's also something that we're evaluated on through MSIP 6, through our APR. How many students show up? What percentage of those students are chronically absent? What is chronic absenteeism? So I'm going to read you the definition from DESE. Chronic absenteeism is defined as students being repeatedly absent from school for any excused or unexcused reason for at least 10% of the school year. So if they don't care why you're gone, if you're not at school, you're absent when it comes to us tracking attendance. And what we call that is our 90-90. So I'll report to you ADA, which is average daily attendance, which is how many kids, the percentage of kids that are in our schools every day, because it's a better number to understand. What we track inside the schools, and we've worked a lot with the principals on, is identifying that percentage of students that are chronically absent. So if we have 162 school days, if you're absent more than 16.2 days, which is a lot, I don't get that many sick days. I don't know how many other people do. But if you're absent more than that, you are considered chronically absent. If you're gone 16 days, how are you taking advantage of all of the things that Dr. Miller is putting into the curricular program and the tutoring that our principals are instituting throughout the schools, and teachers doing in the classrooms, the social-emotional. It's important that we're here every day of every minute. We know things come up, but that's why attendance is important. 3 of the things that we try and focus on that we've talked a little bit about, the challenges, the workforce challenge, the soft skills challenge, and a productivity challenge. So the workforce challenge is absenteeism contributes to high school dropout rates, leaving students without academic credentials and skills needed to be a productive member of the workforce, right? Soft skills challenge, if students aren't at school, they're not going to learn the soft skills that they need to be successful as an adult, as a post-secondary student, in a career. Those are important things that we're teaching in the classroom every single day. And then the productivity challenge, if you're gone more than 16.2 days, you're not being very productive. And not only that, but your class is probably not being very productive either, because if I'm a teacher and 20% of my kids are gone more than 10% of the time, I'm trying to move these students forward while also catching these students up. And so it's hard to be productive in class as well, and it's hard for those students that do show up when we know none of our teachers are going to allow a student to fall behind. And so you're spinning your wheels a lot trying to keep students caught up, when if we could just get them there in the first place, we could be much more productive in the classroom. So those are some things that we're focusing on and why attendance matters. If you go to the next slide there, Colin, thank you, buddy. Attendance matters. So this is our 22-23 attendance. So if you look at the ESSD 40, our average daily attendance, 92.43%. If you say 92%, that's not bad, right? Less than 8% of our students, we're gone on an average day. But when you look at the 90-90 percentage, and when you look at how that translates to chronically absent, 18% of our students were gone more than 16 days. That's scary, right? And so when you look at that and you look at those numbers, there's no reason why, or there's no question why some of our reading scores are the way they are, or why some of our students may not feel confident and we're having disciplinary issues, right? You're gone, you feel left behind, I'm going to act out in class. So that's why it's important that we get kids here every single day. It's why our principals are working so hard with our teachers to create an environment of why students need to be here and create an environment where they want to be at every single day, because it's a choice. At one age, it's a parent choice whether I'm going to make my child go every day, but at some point in middle school and high school, those students are making that decision too. And so we got to implement that early in the ECC and carry that through. But that's kind of why we're focused on this and what it means. If you move on to the next slide there, Colin. Thank you, sir. So here's an update. So this is something you can expect from me every month. I'm going to give an attendance update. We're going to talk about this. Principals are going to put it in their monthly reports. So this is 23-24 by building. And so you can go through there and look at our year-to-date ADA, and then you can look at the change from that same time frame from last year. So we have a lot in the green, which makes you feel good, right? It means the effort that we're putting into this at the building, the principals, the teachers, the strategies that we're putting into place are having an impact. It's exciting to see that even if they are in the red, it's a small percentage in the red, and honestly, I had them run this through the first of the month, so that could be changed by now, because early in the year, 1 or 2 absences can really impact your attendance. But it's a huge focus for us in the buildings this year. It's a huge focus for me, because it doesn't matter what these 2 are doing in their departments if we don't get kids here every single day. So if you guys can help translate that to anybody you talk to, neighbors, friends, family, get kids here, make it important.
You said this is the ADA?
Yes, that's your ADA attendance. And then something else that I'll report every month, if you scroll down to the next one, Colin. So here's your staff attendance. So our staff attendance to date is 95.9%, and then our sub-field rate is 89.9%. So we pull out absences that may not require a sub, anything like that. But what that shows is, and honestly, the sub-fill rate is better than other districts that I've talked to, but 10% of the time our teachers don't have someone in there. So it's why we put things into place like an increased sub-rate pay at levels that we identified had a lower fill rate, right? And that's why we're continuing to talk to our teachers about being here when you can. We understand things come up with you and your family, but be here while you can. And also trying to create a culture that embraces our substitutes, makes them feel valued, so that way we have more people wanting to take those openings as well. And I believe that's all I have.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Dr. Bowman. Next up, Superintendent's Report, Dr. Collins.
I didn't get a chance to put this in your report, but I had a meeting yesterday with the Clay County Commissioners that I wanted to bring to your attention that involves the subject of Senate Bill 190. And if you're not familiar with Senate Bill 190, that is legislation that was pushed through in the state of Missouri that would allow counties to have a referendum on whether or not senior citizens could freeze their property taxes for the rest of their lives, okay? And so there was a lot of discussion, a lot of news in the last year about how rising assessments of people's houses, it jumped too high, too much for senior citizens. And my contention was that, well, that's more an issue of the assessors who haven't been doing it systematically every year, that they have a catch-up year and they have to jump them up so high. I can tell you that we can debate whether we approve or don't approve of this measure. I can tell you that it doesn't matter. It's already been signed into law by the governor. And so there will be issues of this moving forward. I can tell you from a taxing entity perspective of a school district, it will be detrimental to our revenues. And it won't matter this year. And it's not going to matter that much next year, but it has a compounding effect. Because as inflation hits, our expenses are always going to go up, and we're going to have a segment of our population that their revenues, their property taxes will never increase. So we're going to have more expenses, but they're not going to pay more revenues. We're not going to be able to cover it. What that's going to mean is one of two things. Everyone under age 62, which is the age that this will qualify for, under 62, will either have to pay more taxes or we'll have to cut some services in time. And again, it's going to start building over time. It's not going to, you're not going to see it in year 1 or 2 or 3, but you get into 10 through 15 to 20 years from now, it's really going to be kind of an issue for people to deal with. And so we've got to make the decision. The money has to come from somewhere to educate our kids, and if we're going to absolve a large group of our community from having to pay more, that means the other people will have to pick up the difference, or we'll have to reduce some of our services. It's just going to come. So it's a very important piece of legislation. When people just talk about, oh, we want to help the seniors, that sounds great, but there is an impact to it. We have to pay for it. It's not just school districts, it's ambulance, fire, police, hospitals, it's libraries, it's community colleges. All of those entities are going to lose revenues and not be able to keep up, and the only solution is to tax other people more, or to cut services as those funds start to dry up through trying to keep up with inflation. So it's a large issue, and you're not going to see it today or tomorrow, but it's an important thing to understand that as we move forward, there's going to be an impact to people either through taxes or through services. So, and that's not just with school districts. All of those taxing entities will have to make up those difficult decisions too. I will say that all of the Northland school districts were there. We had a few of the county commissioners there. It was a very spirited discussion, and yet at the same time it was very professional, and we all understood kind of what's going on. But I also think there's a lot of continuity in the Northland right now, and I think all the school districts work very well together, and I think we're all on the same page with, you know, how do we do this, how do we communicate, where do we stand. We're a very united group, and I think that's a very positive thing that's come out of it. But another great, and I will commend the commissioners for this, this was signed into law by the state. The county is taking a proactive approach to try to say we want to be able to determine what this is going to look like as we move forward. And I think that is really positive on their part is it's not just going to be a willy-nilly that just says everybody. We don't know what that means. It's going to take a lot of work from the county's perspective to be able to handle the workload and making these determinations. And I commend them for at least taking the stance that they want to be able to try to limit as many peculiar loopholes and oddities that could end up, being settled in court, and try to settle those up front with better understanding communication. So it's going to be a big topic, but definitely follow that in the news, and you'll see, and hopefully that gives you at least an idea of what people are talking about when they bring that up. So that's why I wanted to bring that up today.
Can I say something to that?
Absolutely.
If you want to read what the county is voting on, I don't know, that's tonight or Thursday.
I'm not sure.
Whatever their next commissioner's meeting is. If you go to, I don't know how many people's on Facebook and not on Facebook, but if you go to Jason Withington.
Yes, he's one of the commissioners.
Better Clay County, that's his Facebook page. He's got a copy of it out there, and it's broken down into all the, whereas you have to do this and you have to do that, and he has to do this. But it'll give you all the specifics of what they're going to present to vote. So
That's statewide, not nationwide.
no, this is just
our county.
Our county, right, I mean,
has to
the overall, what's going on
The
is
state
statewide.
passed legislation for it, gave each county has the ability to do it, which obviously all the large ones are going to start first. But you're going to, obviously there's going to be a contingent of people that love this idea. The difficulty is going to be, you can't have it both ways, right? If you're going to pay less, then you're going to get less, or somebody else has to pick up the cost of it, right?
But it does break out, it excludes like bonded money, their, tax raises based off of bonded money.
Right. General obligation debt would be excluded from that because that's under Missouri Constitution. So for instance, when I talk about our Fund 3, paying for our bonds, which our bonds paid for Cornerstone, for instance, you cannot get exempted from that. So seniors would have that piece of it. That'd be Funds 1, 2, and 4. If we had any levies that go into those funds for us, for instance, those would be something they would be frozen once they reach the age of 62 and they own their home. So there's a lot of issues when it talks to what happens when you have a multifamily in a household, or what if a
How much of the time is it leased versus owner occupied?
There's
it's
a
like
lot.
7 pages.
It's a lot. It's a very convoluted, difficult topic, but here's the issue. It's here. So we might as well try to have a voice at the table. So I'm thankful that we do. And hopefully we're able to draft it in a way that fixes some of the problems other counties are already dealing with and have already pushed forward with it. So I think it's an important topic to discuss at least.
And it's only real estate.
Correct.
It's not personal.
And it's also not commercial or agricultural. So, also, I don't know if you guys have seen this or not. So, one of the things, maybe it's my own little pet peeve even, but our tennis courts have a crack in them. That happens, right? It's a huge crack. It goes through the entire facility. It's through the middle 2 center section courts. I'm telling you, we went and looked at it in person. It's this big. Like a tennis ball would fall into the thing, okay? And so that's problematic. It's a liability issue just from people can get hurt, but it's also not even playable when we host our districts or have matches. We can't play on some courts. We need to fix that. So we had a company, actually Brian Foxworthy from our architectural firm has worked with a company that does this before, so he referred him to us and he came out and met with us. And we had our tennis coach there, our athletic director there, Dr. Bull and I were out there. And he walked us through everything they were going to do. We've got options of how to fix it, but I'm going to bring this up because it's expensive. We can go ahead and patch it and then just refinish it, and I think our bid was somewhere around, $750,000, okay? Or we can spend closer to $1 million and put a post-tension probe in, and it will actually, what they do is they put rods down in all the way to the bedrock, all the way around the courts. Then they run steel, high tension steel, this way, and then they pour new concrete on top of that. So no matter what the ground does or water does, any of those issues, all of that can move all around. That thing will never move because it's all the way down into the rock. It's supposed to last 50 to 70 years. And everyone I've talked to said this is the #1 way of doing it. It costs you a little bit more, but if all you do is patch it and redo it, you're going to have the same problems in 8 to 10 years. You're going to have to do that again. I'd rather spend $1 million and last 50 years than spend $750,000 and have it last 10 years. So those are some of the decisions we have to make to figure out how we're going to budget for this. But but there's a plan for that. But that's going to be coming, so that's a big expense, especially for the number of students who use it, but we use it for PE, the community uses it. We're also going to take one of the courts and make it into 2 pickleball courts, because that has a big growth right now of interest from people. We also have what are they, movable or transitional nets that they're able to bring out, so we can actually set up all of them up as pickleball courts. We're going to do 2 of them and actually line it in there. We can choose the colors it goes on, we can put our logos on it. We're going to put new fencing around it. They actually use the existing fencing, but then they put sleeves over it and they tie it into their post tension piece so it'll never have an issue. And then we can put the wind screens back up again and they won't blow over like they did with the last windstorm. Anyway, I just want to bring that up. I know it's a big issue. I know it's a scary dollar amount. But honestly, if you're able to get that kind of a life out of it when you average it out, that's a pretty good return.
How old are the courts now? I know they're old, they're like 15.
I think they're built with the middle school, weren't they? So they're after that?
No. They weren't there whenever I was in school.
I don't know what they're doing.
They used to be up where the parking lot by the football stuff. It's got to be like 15 years.
2005?
2005,
so almost 20 years. We fixed them about 8 years ago, and then we did the patchwork on it, and that's already, you can see, if we keep doing that, we're going to keep having to do this. I'd like to just spend a little bit more, do it right, be done with it. Like I said, 50 to 70 years, that's our lifetimes. But it is a big dollar amount. So that's coming. Do you?
Not 70.
Well, it could be a race between you and the tennis court, who lasts longer. Yeah, right. Also, I sent you some updates. So in your packet, I had the Lewis updates. I know that's really the big thing going on right now. It's the new Lewis Elementary. It's really exciting to see some of the foundations going in. The footings have been put in. They've got that retaining wall over on the alley side. They've got a lot of the curbs in already. I just received that new meeting from our update. I sent it to your email. Hopefully you got a chance to take a look at it, and that gives you even more up-to-date photos than these. We had a meeting today, and honestly, I'm really excited about where they're at from a timing perspective. We're on schedule, we're under budget, things are really going well, and there's a lot of really cool design work that's going on. I know Jill and I met with the museum representative and talked about the history of Lewis, and we're going to do kind of pay an homage to some of the history of, you know, who it was named after and what his history was and what his impact in the town was. And we found some cool news articles from back in the day from when the school district first bought the land and how much they bought it for. I won't give you all the details, but it's pretty cool. So we went, I met with the architect today, and he and I went over to the museum, and so I got those guys connected so that they can get as high of quality copies as they can, so they can actually put together kind of a little mural wall. Really excited about that little project and how that turns out. So I just wanted to report on that, of how that's going. We also had some really cool information on how many local people are being impacted by building this elementary, right? So one of the things I asked the builders today, Dr. Bulmer and I had a meeting with Newkirk Novak and IDS today, and wanted to know, you know, when you guys go out to bid and you get these bids in, how many local people are actually getting hired for this work? And it was interesting. So they had one of their subcontractors, all of the work, their office is out of Liberty. Okay, so they were really close by. But living in Excelsior, we had people doing the vapor barrier. We had the steel foreman over the whole thing as an Excelsior resident. We had a couple carpenters and a couple finish carpenters, all from Excelsior, all got bids to work on that new elementary. I just thought that was really exciting to see that what an economic impact that has, not just on our school district, but in our community. So I was excited to hear that news. I talked a little bit before about some of the facility upgrades. I want to keep that in here because I think the bang for the buck on this is pretty good, but if we can restain the high school and like the way we did Elkhorn, it's about $200,000. It's a huge building. So if you think about it, if you could go paint that building for $200,000, that's a deal, because that is a huge building. And then it'll look like it's brand new again. So we're also going to do a little landscaping out there, hide some of the pipes and some of the junk and utilities. We're going to get some scaffolding stuff to go around that'll look good and design worthy. And then what I want to do is go back and do the next summer is come back and do the ECC the same way, but I don't want to really touch that until we get all the trailers out and Lewis moved in, get all that construction stuff done, and then come in and clean it up and make it new. I don't want to do that while we're still having all the construction and trailers going on. So there is a plan for them, but if we start staggering things out, budgeting our money properly, we'll always have money set aside for these types of things. Instead of just sitting and waiting back for the big things to happen, like $1 million tennis court. We don't want them. Those pop-ups are difficult to handle and adjust to, but we're gonna get that taken care of. Talked about our tax rate a little bit. MSBA conference, so we did put together that. Everybody got an invite. Do you have any questions about that? So we're meeting on Thursday night for some dinner. And then on Friday, it's going to be most of the activities are on Friday, most of the meetings. I would say they highlighted the student showcase. I'm proud to say that Excelsior Springs High School will have representation at that student showcase. So I'd really encourage you, if you have the opportunity to get by and say hi to our students and let them know that you're on the school board, you're excited for them. That's really a big deal for us to get selected for that. So commend Dr. Wickham and her staff for putting that together and making sure those kids will be there and kind of represent what Excelsior Springs is about. So should be a lot of fun. And
is that Friday and Saturday?
It is. It is. Well, I don't know if the students
The showcase is just Friday.
Yeah, showcase is just Friday, but there will be some of the conference meetings on Saturday too, if people choose to go to those. So, and that, sir, ends my report unless you have some questions.
Any questions? Not hearing any. Thank you all. Next up is our discussion items and action items, and first up is the high school board report. Dr. Wickham.
A great transition.
Perfect. Good evening, I'm Sarah Wickham, principal at the high school. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about some things that we've been working on this fall as we start the year. I want to share a little bit about just some culture and community events that we've had going on. One last month during the month of September, we hosted a No Hate Tour assembly. This was really part of our anti-bullying efforts and to make sure that we were having the whole school conversation around anti-bullying, positive messaging, overcoming challenges, just treating each other with kindness. The messages were really well received by our students and our staff, and it was a lot of fun. They present it by having professional BMX riders in to do stunts, and so our high school students really thought that was pretty awesome, but also responded really well to the messages, and so it was a great way to have that whole school conversation. We also had an awesome homecoming week last week. I'm super proud of our student council. With the addition of our leadership class this year, our students completely planned the entire week, and so it was awesome. On Sunday, we started a new tradition of the homecoming kickoff. We had over 250 people attend that. And it was really great. It was open to elementary students, and so it was just an awesome way to start the week, and our students were really proud of how that went. The parade, we also had 61 entries, and I know our student council, their goal was to exceed the number of entries from the previous year, and they met that, and so they were super proud of that. So thank you for those of you that were part of that. And then at the dance, we had over 450 students participate. So our commons was a hopping place, and our student council felt like that was the most participation that they'd had in several years at a dance. So it was a lot of fun. So I also want to give a shout out to Malaya and Shelby, who were our district tennis champions for doubles, and that was their second year in a row of winning that. So that was a really great celebration. So just a couple things that we're excited about that have been happening at the high school. Thank you. Dr. Boldmore spoke a little bit about attendance. So we are at a 92.35% ADA. We do know that is just a little bit down, and so we have been working on some strategies to really try to boost that attendance up. I do want to highlight our seniors are really knocking it out of the park, and I feel like in my experience as a high school administrator, that's a little bit unusual to see, so I'm really proud of that group. In addition to some of the strategies that I think have been pretty long-standing at the high school, a lot of communication with families, family meetings, individual support plans, a couple of new things that we're doing. We do have a small group of teachers who have committed to using part of their plan time to meet individually with students and mentor them on a weekly basis to check in about attendance. So during the month of September, we had about 50 of those one-on-one meetings between teachers and students. And that's been a really positive thing. We've had a lot of great goal setting and some definite celebrations from kids who I think just that additional conversation and support is helping them stay on track. We also were able to, in the last month, open up our calm spaces in our counseling office. And I do think that this is part of not just some SEL support for students, but also is a great attendance strategy. I think that sometimes when students are upset, frustrated, feel like they just need to check out for the day, we're finding that they will head to our calm space and be able to just have a little bit of time to reset and then head back to class. So we've had several students utilize that already, and it's been really successful. In October, we have also launched a 20 for 20 challenge. There are 20 days of school in September. So we're really just trying to increase that communication with our students, our parents, and our teachers to really emphasize the importance of attendance and getting to school and how we can help make sure that that's successful. Yeah, that's not right. I give up. I wanted to share with you a little bit about our senior class. This has been a big focus in the last month of just really making sure that we have a good beat on where they are with their progress toward graduation, and that every student and their family knows the plan that they need to accomplish this year to make sure that we get that diploma in May. So currently 85% of our seniors are on track to graduate. We do have about 3% of our students that are currently enrolled in the Missouri Options program. We do have a handful of foreign exchange students, so they are not diploma seeking. And then we do have 8.8% of our students that are currently credit deficient. So with all of our seniors in the last month, they've had an opportunity to have an individual meeting with their counselor. Our counselors have also sent letters to parents explaining to them what their progress is toward graduation, what they need to make sure that they accomplish this senior year, and then support's available to support them. Those 8% of students are also, a lot of them are enrolled in some additional credit recovery and have an individualized plan to make sure that we're working toward graduation, or considering if we need to shift and possibly pursue like the Missouri Options program or some kind of alternative pathway. So I'm super proud of our counselors for the work that they've been doing to make sure that every senior feels supported. We also have several of our seniors who are assigned a check-in, check-out mentor through our intervention program. And so they're able to get some additional one-on-one support with teachers to set goals and make sure they're making progress toward what they need to accomplish. We've really been looking at and thinking about our senior class. Where are our graduates going? So this is a snapshot of some of our state data of where our students go after graduation, and you can see 5-year trends. We don't have 2023 data released from the state yet. Some of the things that we've been talking about as a staff, so if you combine our 2-year college rate and 4-year college rate, for 2022, for example, that's 41%, 42%. That's about 15% behind the state. And so we've been having a lot of conversation around why is that, what are some strategies that maybe we need to consider to make sure our students who want to attend college feel like they have the opportunity to pursue that. So just a couple of strategies that we are working on. We have formed a college and career committee of teachers who are super committed and passionate about this topic, and so they are studying what are some college and career readiness indicators that are nationally researched and that will help us understand what kids need to be working on and attaining along the way, so freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, so that we can really be tracking that path and making sure that we're starting that conversation early with our students. We're also hosting our college representative visits in the library this year, and instead of in the past they've been at lunch and just something where kids could pop up and talk to the rep if they were interested. This year our counselors proposed, could we have kids sign up for those and have a little more personal and lengthy conversation in the library with that representative. So we've had a few of those so far, and they've gone really well, and definitely had a small group of students who felt like they got some really beneficial information. Sorry, 2 more things. We're excited to also have a partnership with the BU Scholarship Program, which is a program that helps students understand what their academic scholarship opportunities would be at a variety of schools across the Midwest particularly. So it's kind of a reverse way of students understanding the financial opportunities available to them at local schools. So rather than having to research and go to every individual school website and look that up and try to calculate it on their own, it's going to give them that information up front, and then they can go, oh, I'm interested in that one, I want to go find out more about it. So we feel like it's going to really help our students just understand their opportunities and be able to pursue more of those. So looking at just some of our latest academic performance data, I'll highlight just a couple things on this slide. I know there's a lot, but our ACT data, so our recent composite was a 19.1. One of the things I'd like to highlight there is that the state average is 20.2. And so that is our goal, to make sure that we are preparing students to attain an ACT score that helps them achieve their post-secondary goals. But we would also really we feel like there's no reason we can't get up and above that state average. One of the things that we have decided to do is our school-wide testing day. We have shifted to March. In the past, that was in the fall, and we feel like students being able to have that full year of curriculum their junior year is going to be really helpful for them to have more exposure to the content that's tested on the ACT. Also super proud of our AP scores. 55% of our students last year earned a 3 or above on the AP exam, which is what you need to earn the college credit. So that increase is really significant, and super proud of our teachers for their hard work on that. You can see there are trends with the EOC and the different subject areas. I think what I'd like to highlight is that our teachers have done a lot of great work in their subject area teams with really breaking down the standards and how our students are performing, where we're trending in particular areas that we need to make sure that we're emphasizing in the curriculum. So I'll highlight just a couple instructional practices that also align with that academic performance data that we want to improve. We've really been focusing as a staff a lot on clarity of learning. And so how do we make sure that our students understand what it is that they are needing to learn? We're using the language of learning targets. That's how our curriculum is written, but really making sure that we're communicating with students. Do you understand what you're learning versus what you're doing? So they might understand I'm doing this activity, but what is it I'm supposed to be getting out of it? And so how do we make sure those learning targets are conversational with students, that they're visible in the classroom, and that they help our students set goals and know what they need as a learner? So I've highlighted just a couple pictures of things from our classrooms of how our teachers are communicating this. One I'm super proud of, our geometry team. They have really they're kind of diving in and really even thinking about how do we make sure that our students can track their assessment progress by learning target. And so, for example, on their most recent unit assessment, students that struggled on and needed to retake, they allowed them to just retake the particular learning targets that they weren't understanding rather than having to retake the entire thing. So I feel like our teachers are really thinking about how to target instruction and get kids what they need, which is awesome. Building off of those learning targets, we've also really been focusing on student self-assessment. So how do we give our students more ownership and understanding and reflecting on where they are as a learner, what they need, and setting those goals. So these are just a couple pictures of classrooms in action and students. That math one, there's a continuum up on that whiteboard where kids reflect on where am I at on this continuum after they work through that mathematical process. So our teachers have been thinking about just lots of small ways that they can continuously engage kids in reflecting about where they are as a learner and what they need. So last thing I'll highlight is just some upcoming events. District tennis did already happen, but I do want to give Mr. Marshall a shout out. He's worked really hard, and our high school is hosting districts for tennis, softball, and soccer. So I wanted to highlight all three of those. We also have a college and career fair coming up on October 24th. And then Seussical is our fall musical, so that is coming up in November, and would love to see some of you there. So, thank you so much.
Any questions? Thank you, ma'am. All right. Last item is approval of the high school video board proposal. Dr. Wickham, Mr. Marshall.
Thank you for having us here tonight. to talk a little bit about a need that when I took over the job as activities director, I took the big look. You know, I wanted to go around and see everything there was on our campus, and one thing that stuck out to me was our scoreboard at the stadium. It's over 20 years old, and the bottom line is the scoreboard did not work before the season started this year. And we got on the phone, and the gentleman that Roger always calls was trying to talk us through this, and we couldn't get it to work. Ultimately, he comes out, he visits, looks at this video board. Oh, we got this fried piece. He can't order the part anymore. He couldn't find the replacement part. He literally went to I guess there is a scoreboard junkyard somewhere out there, and dug through scoreboards and pulled a piece out of a discarded junk board. And we were able to put it into our scoreboard and make it work this year. So that is how our scoreboard is operating. So my point is, we're one breakdown away from not having a stadium scoreboard.
I know one of my questions for Mr. Marshall when he suggested that we needed to start looking into this was, what do other schools have in our conference? And so through our research, we have found that basically everybody has a scoreboard. There are a handful that do not have a scoreboard, but they have proposals to get a video scoreboard. So our findings are that we would essentially be the only school without a video scoreboard.
If the board would like to pursue buying a scoreboard, we could actually have this scoreboard up and running by the spring of 2024. They looked at our existing structures. We can cut down some costs because they can use our existing I-beam steel to mount the new board. It would be sufficient. So if you look at our current scoreboard on the left, that's what we have standing out there. The one on the right, it would be the proposal. I did ask Daktronics for what would it cost me to replace what I got, exactly the same. And so he came back with $140,000. But the one on the left, if we were to go back exactly with what we have, we're going to have scoreboards, and that's all we're going to have. We're not going to. I mean, we could teach a kid how to use a scoreboard, but the education piece will stop there if that's what we decide to go with. If that's what the board decides to go with. If we go to the right, this is our proposed video board, and with that comes a lot of educational opportunities for our kids and their future. Okay, as far as classroom opportunities, and there's actually schools out there that I know Mizzou is a Daktronics school, and they recruit kids that operate these boards in their college or in their high school, and all of their facilities are Daktronics. And so Darren may get a scholarship to help run the stadium scoreboards, and Kenny might be helping out with the wrestling program with the actual events. So there are some opportunities there just by knowing Daktronics and attending one of their schools.
So in your handout, the renderings of the new video scoreboard, you can see the dimensions there. You also see a photo of what it would look like at Tiger Stadium. And then on the back, you see if we did choose to go with the replacement scoreboard for $140,000. So just to clarify those images.
On the scoreboard itself, like the anchor partner and all that, is that all digital too, or is that a?
Daktronics will come in and have the support system that will help us, and they'll help value what our partnerships are worth. And we don't have to go with that, but they can help us.
I think his question, Mr. Marshall, is about those. Is that also part of the digital board, or is that a static piece where just?
Piece.
Oh, yeah. The anchor part is on the very bottom is static. The two on the sides are not.
So
those
they
are
can
electronic.
rotate through
Yes, sir.
electrical one? different ones could rotate through
Yes,
on
sir.
those other 4.
Absolutely.
Or you could expand the play part of it all the way out across.
Right. There's a lot of configurations you can do with that. And you ask, what else can you do with this video board? One of the big things, I know that you guys have traveled around to other schools and seen other, when you can recognize your kids, senior night, you put pictures of each kid and things like that. The kids love that. And it's awesome to see, but what's really cool is when you see the kids at school that are creating those things and having a blast with it. The kids are the ones who are building a lot of that content.
So with the anchor partners where you see, we also feel like there's a lot of great opportunity for community partnerships to continue to partner with our local businesses, support those, but also to get kids involved in thinking about what those partnerships can look like. I know a lot of schools will create opportunities where, hey, we're going to show you this many times per quarter. We're going to rotate you through, or you're going to buy a full, quarter, you're going to buy a full half. There's just a lot of opportunities, but we feel like that partnership and opportunity for our kids to be involved in that real world planning and thinking about what do those marketing opportunities look like is great for our kids and for our community.
So not only is like the fan experience visual, anybody sit on the home side lately and try to talk to the person next to them? It doesn't work because the speakers are coming right down. This will actually take the tiger head up there will house all the sound. And so it's directional sound, so it will be pointed towards our home section, but also be pointed towards the visitor section. And if anyone's went to any of the other schools this year, I was at one particular school, I'm not going to say names, but I couldn't understand a single word they were saying. And this is just going to clear up the sound a whole lot, and it's needed out there. The sound definitely needs upgrading.
So that includes like the upgrading of the sound completely?
Yes, sir.
Because I know it's a problem.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Other uses, really, I mean, your imagination will take you as far as you want. Our elementary, we have a couple elementary principals here. We can have elementary movie night. Kids can come out and bring, you got to pick up after yourselves though. We stuff on. But you can bring a blanket out and we can have movie nights. One that really stuck in my head last year was I did not get to attend the Final Four soccer. If you can stream it on a laptop, we can stream it on a scoreboard. And so we could have opened it up for Final Four baseball. Those of you who didn't get to go, I got to go last year. It was pretty awesome. But we could really make it a community event, and I think that people would really enjoy it. I mean, we could bring lawn chairs down there, sit on the track, and have front row view. Or we can utilize the bleachers. Graduation is another. We have a lot of, we deal with a lot of people trying to get in, and there's just not room where we have our graduation. Well, what we do is we can stream it and then just open up the stadium. And so if your crazy great uncle shows up and wants to go and there's not a ticket for him, well, he can sit outside and watch it on the big screen, the new sound system. Down the road, a lot more things can happen. We can do replays. We can do all the fancy things but those also require education pieces, and it requires the kids will go crazy for it. I've seen this work in too many schools, and kids. Unfortunately, I'm afraid the kids might quit all their sports and just start doing this full time because it happens. I've seen it happen. And a lot of times, once we start production type stuff, the kids are actually paid to come and film and put the game on, which also kills my gate money. But I think the kids deserve these things.
So for me, I'm also really excited about this because I see a lot of academic opportunities and potential for our students. So, we currently have a graphic design class, a marketing class. I think those are really natural avenues for our students to be part of the project planning, the graphic design creation, the video production. There's a lot of opportunities in those existing classes, but we've also been dreaming a little bit about the potential of adding a course like a sports marketing class or a broadcasting class. I know the middle school is having some really great success with broadcasting at their level. So those kinds of future opportunities are going to make this really meaningful for our students and really connect well with academic opportunities and potential career opportunities that they want to pursue. We also see a lot of potential for, different, maybe a sports media team. It's not so much a class, or maybe I don't have room in my schedule this year for this class, but I still want to be part of this. Or potential internships for students, opportunities for students to go network with other districts about ideas that they have. So I think that there's a lot of value to this beyond just a scoreboard for our students. And so
we had a young lady approach both of us, she's a softball player, about wanting to host a softball media day. And the kids put it on themselves and they took pictures and just like, there was like different action shots and poses. Some stuff was silly and some was fun, but the kids had a blast with it. I had a kid that was on the softball team that did not propose it and probably thought it was a little bit corny. She's going to wrestle, and she came up to me and said, "Can we have one of those media days for wrestling too?" I'm like, absolutely. But the sports media teams, those are things that I see coming down the line where a group of kids that, and especially if they have an interest in a particular sport, they'll grab it and run with it.
So, in closing, we would like to recommend approval of the video board proposal as presented.
I just have a couple of questions real quick. What is like a warranty on a piece of equipment like this? Like if something goes wrong with it?
There is warranty on it. I don't know all the exact details. Probably should have covered that. 5-year warranty, parts coverage. 1-year warranty, parts coverage. Yeah, so it's 5 years.
Okay, another question. We have a lot of community organizations that use the stadium too. So would those people need training in order to access this digital scoreboard? Are we going to have a little bit of control over who uses it?
Yeah, I'm not going to, I won't give the keys to the Ferrari out, if that's what you're asking.
Just asking.
If I can step in here for a second. So the benefit to the scoreboard that they're presenting is it has both a static scoreboard that you could just have individually use like the current one, or you can turn on the video board as well. So
Okay,
for those
I
different,
did not realize that.
Yep.
Well, right there.
Thank you.
So if you look, we can have this on a scroll, pre-programmed scroll up here on the top where his picture is. We can do ads, we can do Go Tigers, whatever. And then we can make this the only operational area that Tigers and Irish use.
Yeah, okay. I just, when you get something that nice,
It's great.
you want everybody
Joe Brown's going to come out of retirement.
We talked a lot about sports, but I could see like marching band. This could be huge for them when they're, practicing and flags, drill team, competition cheer, sideline cheer. You've got a lot of groups that would be able to use this.
Absolutely. I was thinking, we've got senior night coming up. And, being able to scroll those images up as our seniors are coming out to be recognized, things like that. Those are things I feel like we could get done very quickly in this process. I don't want to over-promise anything, but I feel like those types of things, the video side is going to require some classes. But Daktronics does a good job of providing a lot of educational information for us.
All right, entertain a motion to approve. So moved. First by Rick, second by Kenny. I do have a question. Does it come with, I'm sure it probably didn't come with it, but is it capable to have because I'm assuming you're videotaping the football game or the soccer game or whatever from up in the press box to play it onto the
They can, I mean, it has.
But does it have like at, Arrowhead or Royal Stadium where they got the guy running around the camera and putting it up on the Jumbotron, to where like senior night, you could have a student out there with a camera as they introduce Billy
Sure.
and his
Yeah.
parents?
I mean, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Or the band's performing, they could be out on the field with the camera. You can do that
Yeah,
streaming.
absolutely.
Yeah, you can do that.
That's also going to come with that education piece in that classroom, that video class.
Yeah, so I just wondered if
Yes.
that's something you could incorporate down the road where you could.
It's definitely capable of
And
that.
what is it, the bananas,
I don't know about that. I team relish.
Yeah. Savannah Bananas out there performing, yeah. All right, we have a first and a second. Any further questions, comments? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? 6 against, 1. All right.
Thank you, we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And that is our last item. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. First by Troy, second.
Can I say something?
Jill said you as a second. Kaylin, second by Kaylin. Yes.
I just want to say thanks to the Excelsior Springs High School Student Council for asking me to Grand Marshal the homecoming parade. It was a really great experience, and I also asked Miss Lisa Shelton here, admin secretary, to join me and a few other people. I think Dr. Bowmore's son, he was walking by, kind of threw him on the float with us. But everybody got to enjoy it, and we had a great time, so thank you.
All right, all those in favor? And that passes. Thank you guys, have a great night. Mr. Rice, if you would